The average American household lost over 11 hours of power in 2024, the most in a decade, driven largely by Hurricanes Helene and Milton. In South Carolina alone, the average customer sat without electricity for 53 hours. Most people had nothing ready, no light, no water, no plan. These are the ultimate blackout kit, 12 items every home must have before it's too late. Item 12, water storage, the one everyone underestimates. Water is the first thing to go sideways in a prolonged blackout and the last thing most people think to address before one hits. Here's why it's not as simple as turning on the tap. Municipal water systems depend on electrically powered pumps to maintain pressure throughout the distribution network. During an extended blackout, water pressure doesn't disappear immediately, but it drops. And in some outage scenarios, particularly when pumping stations lose backup power, it disappears entirely. Well water users lose pressure immediately when the power goes out, since the pump is electric. Either way, you may find yourself with no running water within hours of the grid going down. FEMA and the Red Cross both recommend storing a minimum of 1 gallon of water per person per day. 2 liters is the standard shorthand for drinking alone, but sanitation and cooking add substantially to that number. For a family of 4, a 72-hour supply means at least 12 gallons of water on hand before anything goes wrong. That's the minimum. Most experienced emergency preparedness professionals recommend 2 weeks' worth for shelter-in-place scenarios, which puts you at 56 gallons for a family of 4. The practical solution is 2-tiered. First, keep a supply of commercially sealed water containers. 1-gallon jugs or 5-gallon containers in a cool, dark location, rotated regularly. Second, own at least 1 large-capacity storage container, 30 to 55-gallon food-grade barrels filled directly from a garden hose. If a storm is incoming, fill the bathtub with a water bob insert, an inexpensive bladder that holds up to 100 gallons of clean tap water in a sealed bag, keeping it sanitary for up to 16 weeks. Even without the bladder, a full bathtub provides water for toilet flushing, washing, and sanitation that dramatically reduces the hardship of a multi-day outage. If your municipal supply is compromised, the American Red Cross advises boiling water for at least 1 full minute before drinking, 3 minutes above 6,500 feet elevation. Keep a manual pot and a camp stove available for exactly this reason. Item 11. Flashlights, plural, with a specific battery strategy. This one seems too obvious to include on a list like this, and that's exactly why it ends up being the thing people get wrong. The problem isn't usually that a household has 0 flashlights. The problem is that they have 1 flashlight with dead batteries that hasn't been tested since the last outage, and 3 more scattered across the house that no one can locate in the dark. The standard guidance, and the one that actually holds up when tested, is 1 flashlight per household member, stored in known consistent locations. Nightstands, kitchen junk drawer, tool shelf. Not wherever it ended up last time. The Red Cross recommends battery-powered flashlights specifically over candles for safety reasons, since candles are an open flame that generates house fires at a rate that spikes measurably during power outages. Battery strategy matters more than most people realize. Mixing battery types and brands across your flashlights creates a maintenance problem. You need to track multiple formats and expiration windows. The most practical approach is to standardize on AA batteries and stock all your flashlights accordingly. AA lithium batteries, not alkaline, have a shelf life of up to 20 years in storage and perform reliably in extreme cold, where alkaline batteries fail dramatically. A sealed package of Energizer or Amazon Basics, AA lithium batteries stored in your kit will outlast almost any emergency planning horizon you're working with. Beyond flashlights, headlamps are genuinely superior for any task that requires both hands. Cooking, first aid, working on a generator, navigating stairs with a child. Every adult in the household should have one. LED headlamps in the $20 to $40 range are waterproof, bright enough for practical use, and will run for 40 to 100 hours on a set of batteries at moderate brightness settings. Lanterns are the third piece. A single LED camp lantern placed in the main living area converts the room from functional but dim to actually livable during an evening outage. Virtually any modern LED lantern outperforms the kerosene versions previous generations used, and without the combustion risk. The BioLite Base Lantern, Goal Zero Lighthouse, and Black Diamond Moji are consistently cited as reliable options at various price points. Item 10. A hand crank or battery-powered weather radio. When the power goes out, your internet goes with it. Your phone's cellular service may become congested or fail. Your home's cable and satellite systems go dark. In a serious emergency, a hurricane, a tornado, a major ice storm, the information environment can become as disrupted as everything else. This is precisely when reliable emergency communications matter most. And it's exactly when most people discover they have no way to receive them. The solution is simple and inexpensive. A NOAA weather radio with either a hand crank generator or battery backup. NOAA weather radio. All Hazards is a 24-hour-per-day broadcast service operated by the National Weather Service, transmitting from over 1,000 stations across the country. It covers weather events, but also natural disasters, technological emergencies, and national security alerts. Essentially, the full spectrum of public safety events that warrant official warning. It operates independently of the internet, cellular networks, and commercial broadcast systems. The gold standard for this category is a combination unit, one device that covers AM/FM radio, NOAA weather bands, and includes a hand crank generator, a built-in solar panel, a USB charging port for your phone, and a battery backup. The Midland ER310, the Sangen MMR99, and the Kaido KA500 are consistently recommended by preparedness organizations and regularly top product reviews for reliability and feature combination. Prices range from $35 to $70, making this one of the least expensive items on this list relative to its importance. FEMA specifically recommends having a battery-powered or hand crank radio as part of every household emergency kit. The hand crank functionality matters because batteries run out. And in a multi-day outage, the ability to charge your radio by hand means you maintain access to emergency broadcasts regardless of how long the situation lasts. One additional note, cordless phones are useless without power because the base station requires electricity. If you want a working landline phone during a blackout, you need an old-fashioned corded phone plugged into a standard telephone jack. Many households don't have traditional landline service anymore, but if you do, keep a corded phone connected. It will work when nothing else does. Item 9. A portable power station or power bank. In 2024, most people's primary emergency concern within the first 12 hours of a blackout isn't food or water. It's whether their phone is going to die. That sounds shallow until you recognize that a charged smartphone is the primary interface for emergency alerts, family communication, medical information, maps, and weather updates. Keeping it alive is genuinely a safety issue, not a convenience preference. A portable power bank, a battery-based device that charges phones and small electronics via USB, is the entry-level solution. A capacity of at least 20,000 milliamp hours will charge most modern smartphones 4 to 6 times from a full charge, which buys 2 to 3 days of managed phone use. The Anker PowerCore and RAV Power options in this range consistently receive high reliability ratings and are available for $30 to $60. Keep it fully charged as a standing habit, not just before anticipated storms. For households that need to power larger devices, CPAP machines, fans, a small refrigerator for medication, a router, a portable power station is the appropriate solution. These are essentially large, rechargeable battery packs with AC outlets, USB ports, and sometimes DC outputs. The Jackery Explorer 300 or 500, the EcoFlow River 2, and the Bluetti EB3A are frequently cited entry-level options in the $200 to $400 range that can power a CPAP machine through a night, keep phones charged for days, and run small fans or lights continuously for hours. If you have medical devices that require power, CPAP and BiPAP machines, home oxygen concentrators, insulin refrigeration, powered mobility equipment, FEMA specifically recommends notifying your local utility company that you have a medically necessary power situation. Many utilities maintain registries for exactly this purpose and prioritize restoration for customers with life support equipment. That call costs nothing and could mean the difference between 48 hours without power and 12. Item 8. A first aid kit, updated and stocked, not the one from 2009. The odds of needing first aid in a blackout are higher than most people assume. Moving around in unfamiliar darkness causes injuries. Stress accelerates health events. People using unfamiliar heat sources get burned. Children fall. And in a serious emergency, a hurricane, an ice storm, flooding, external injuries can come from debris and conditions that don't exist in normal circumstances. The American Red Cross recommends that every household first aid kit include at minimum adhesive bandages in multiple sizes, sterile gauze pads, adhesive cloth tape, antiseptic wipes, antibiotic ointment, hydrocortisone cream, a digital thermometer, aspirin, acetaminophen, ibuprofen, diphenhydramine, antihistamine, antacid, tweezers, scissors, first aid instruction manual, and nitrile gloves. Pre-assembled kits from manufacturers like Johnson & Johnson, MyMedic, or the American Red Cross branded kits meet this baseline and are available for $25 to $80. Two specific additions matter for blackout scenarios specifically. A trauma bandage, sometimes called an Israeli bandage, is designed for applying direct pressure to serious wounds and is significantly more effective than a standard gauze pad for controlling bleeding. They're used by military medics and first responders and are widely available for under $10 each. Second, SAM splints, flexible foam and aluminum strips that can immobilize a broken or sprained limb, are compact, lightweight, and cover an injury scenario that standard first aid kits don't address well. Review your kit annually. The single most common failure point in household first aid preparedness is an expired or depleted kit that no one has checked since it was originally assembled. Aspirin degrades. Antibiotic ointment expires. Bandages get used and not replaced. Set a calendar reminder, open the kit once a year, and replace anything that's expired or missing. Item 7. Non-perishable food. 3 days to 2 weeks, deliberately chosen. The refrigerator holds cold for about 4 hours after the power goes out if you keep the door closed. The freezer holds for approximately 48 hours if it's full and stays shut, 24 hours if it's only half full. After that, the USDA and Red Cross both advise discarding perishables that have been above 40 degrees Fahrenheit for more than 2 hours. That's not a guideline people enjoy hearing, but food poisoning on top of a blackout is substantially worse than just the blackout. Your emergency food supply covers the gap between when the refrigerator gives out and when the power returns. The standard FEMA recommendation is a 72-hour supply per person. More experienced preparedness advocates push for 2 weeks. Whatever your goal, the composition matters more than the quantity. Prioritize foods that require no cooking or minimal preparation. Canned goods, beans, tuna, salmon, chicken, fruit, vegetables, soups are the foundation. A manual can opener is essential and belongs in the same drawer as the cans. Peanut butter and nut butters are calorie-dense, shelf-stable for 1 to 2 years, and require no preparation. Crackers, dried fruit, trail mix, granola bars, and jerky round out a practical rotation. Instant oats and instant rice can be prepared with water that's simply been boiled, which requires only a camp stove and a pot. A note about the camp stove. It goes on this list as a complementary item to your food supply. A single-burner butane camp stove and a supply of butane canisters, or a propane stove with a small propane tank, allows you to heat water, cook canned goods, and prepare hot food that significantly improves the livability of a prolonged outage. Butane stoves are safe for indoor use in a well-ventilated space, unlike propane or charcoal grills, which must be used exclusively outdoors. Keep a month's worth of fuel canisters on hand and rotate them into your camping gear periodically to keep them current. Item 6. Cache and copies of critical documents. ATMs run on electricity. Card readers run on electricity. When the grid goes down, so does your ability to use any form of digital payment. This is a reality that catches people off guard in modern emergencies despite being completely predictable, because most households haven't kept physical cash on hand since the early 2000s. FEMA recommends keeping a supply of cash, in small bills specifically, as part of any emergency kit. Small bills matter because cash transactions during an outage may happen with people who cannot make change from a larger denomination. The amount is a personal decision based on what you might need to buy: fuel, food, supplies, a hotel room. but preparedness guides generally suggest a minimum of $200 to $500 per household in mixed denominations. Critical documents need to be secured and accessible in both physical and digital form. Physical copies, stored in a waterproof bag or folder inside your emergency kit, should include identification for every household member, insurance cards and policy numbers, health insurance and medical information, bank account information, a printed list of emergency contacts, copies of prescriptions, and household utility account numbers. Digital copies should be stored in a cloud service like Google Drive or Dropbox that can be accessed from any device with cellular service. A USB drive stored in your kit with scanned copies of all these documents provides a middle option that doesn't require internet access. One specific addition worth noting: a paper map. Google Maps and Waze are non-functional without data connectivity. A current road atlas or a detailed map of your local area allows you to navigate evacuations or route changes when digital navigation is unavailable. Gas stations and pharmacies may need to be found by memory or by paper. Knowing your area at a basic level without relying on a phone is a practical skill that has become less common, precisely as it has become more relevant in emergency scenarios. Item 5. Carbon monoxide detector with battery backup. Carbon monoxide is colorless, odorless, and lethal. You cannot see it, smell it, or taste it. At sufficient concentrations, it kills without warning. And the conditions of a power outage are exactly the conditions that create CO poisoning risk. People pulling generators indoors or into garages, running gas-powered cooking equipment in enclosed spaces, using charcoal grills inside, or burning improvised fuel sources in an attempt to stay warm. According to the CDC, roughly 400 Americans die from CO poisoning unrelated to fires each year, and non-fatal CO poisoning sends more than 100,000 people to emergency rooms annually. During and immediately after major weather events, these numbers spike sharply as people use backup heating and power equipment incorrectly. The fix is straightforward. Install a carbon monoxide detector on every level of your home, including inside and outside sleeping areas. FEMA and the Red Cross both specify that CO detectors require battery backup, because a CO detector that's wired to the home's electrical system is useless during the exact type of power outage scenario that most commonly creates CO poisoning risk. Current recommendations from the Consumer Product Safety Commission and the National Fire Protection Association specify that CO detectors should be replaced every 5 to 7 years. The sensors degrade over time and will eventually stop detecting CO even if the unit continues to beep and appear functional. Check the manufacture date stamped on the back of your detector. If it's more than 7 years old, replace it now. Combination units that detect both smoke and carbon monoxide, the KIDI and First Alert combination detectors are the most widely recommended, are the most practical option, covering 2 critical hazards in one device. Test them monthly, replace batteries annually, and know the rule on generator placement. Outdoors only, at least 20 feet from any window or door, never in a garage even with the door open. Item 4. Temperature management supplies. Extreme temperature, heat or cold, in a powerless home is a medical emergency, not a discomfort issue. The CDC categorizes both heat stroke and hypothermia as life-threatening conditions, and the populations most vulnerable to temperature-related illness, infants, elderly adults, people with chronic illness, are often the least equipped to recognize when they're in danger. For cold weather blackouts, the priority is layering and insulation. A supply of wool or synthetic blend blankets per household member, sleeping bags rated to 20 degrees Fahrenheit or below, and hand warmers, the disposable chemical type, provide warmth that doesn't require any power source. Indoor propane heaters marked as safe for indoor use, the Mr. Heater Buddy series is the most frequently recommended, can maintain a livable temperature in a single room, but must be used with the CO detector present and the room partially ventilated. Never seal a room completely while running any combustion heater. For hot weather blackouts, battery-powered fans are the first line of defense. A small USB rechargeable desk fan running from a power bank can make the difference between a manageable night and a dangerous one, particularly for elderly household members. The Red Cross recommends that if outdoor temperatures exceed 90 degrees Fahrenheit and your home lacks cooling for an extended period, You should identify a local cooling center, typically a library, community center, or mall, and plan to use it. Heat-related illness at home during extended blackouts in summer has been responsible for a significant number of deaths during events like the 1995 Chicago heat wave, which killed approximately 739 people over 5 days, many of whom were elderly and home alone without air conditioning. Keep both cold weather and warm weather supplies ready year-round. Weather emergencies don't always align with the season you'd expect. Winter storms hit in early spring, heat waves hit in September. Having both scenarios covered means you're not scrambling for supplies at a moment when stores are already sold out. Item 3. Sanitation supplies. This is the item that preparedness guides include, and YouTube videos rush past because it's uncomfortable to discuss, which is exactly why it belongs at number 3. Sanitation failures are one of the fastest ways a manageable blackout becomes a genuine health crisis, and most households have given it essentially zero thought. The toilet issue is specific. Most toilets require no electricity to flush, since they operate on gravity and water pressure from the municipal supply. However, if water pressure drops, or your well pump loses power, toilets stop working once the tank empties. The bathtub full of water solves this. Pour a bucket directly into the bowl, not the tank, and it will flush via gravity. 5 gallons of water per flush is the standard estimate. Plan accordingly. The composting toilet, sanitation bucket with lid, and heavy-duty waste bags, sometimes marketed as emergency toilet bags, are available at camping retailers and Amazon for $20 to $40. A box of these bags in your kit addresses a multi-day scenario where flushing becomes impossible. Hand sanitation is the second priority. Bar soap, hand sanitizer at 60% alcohol content or higher, the CDC minimum for effectiveness, antiseptic wipes, and disposable gloves cover most sanitation scenarios when running water is unavailable. Wet wipes, the unscented, fragrance-free variety, serve as a basic personal hygiene solution when showering is not possible. A 100-count box per household member for a 72-hour kit is a reasonable baseline. Trash management is often overlooked. Without regular garbage collection, household waste, including food waste, accumulates quickly and becomes a pest and sanitation problem. A supply of heavy-duty garbage bags and a designated outdoor waste area away from the home address this. In an extended outage where municipal collection is disrupted, this matters considerably more than most urban households have thought through. Item 2. A go bag with copies of everything that matters. Sometimes the answer is not staying. A wildfire, a structural fire, a chemical spill, a flood. There are scenarios where the right response to a blackout is not settling in, but getting out. The go bag, also called a 72-hour bag or emergency evacuation kit, is a pre-packed bag kept ready near an exit that allows your household to leave in under 2 minutes with everything critical already gathered. FEMA's recommended go bag contents include water, 1 bottle per person minimum, non-perishable food for 3 days, a flashlight and extra batteries, a first aid kit, a whistle to signal for help, N95 dust masks, plastic sheeting and duct tape, moist towelettes, garbage bags, a wrench to shut off utilities, a manual can opener, local maps, a battery or hand crank radio, and copies of personal documents. Beyond the FEMA baseline, add a change of clothing per person, sturdy shoes for every family member, relevant if you're evacuating at night in socks, prescription medications for 72 hours, infant supplies if applicable, pet food and a leash, and cash in small bills. The go bag sits near an exit. Every household member knows where it is. If you have to leave at 3 a.m. with 2 minutes of warning, you grab the bag and go. Emergency management professionals consistently point out that the households who suffer most in evacuations are those spending the first critical minutes searching for documents and medications that were never organized. Former FEMA Administrator Craig Fugate noted, "People underestimate how fast situations change. The window from 'there's time' to 'you should have already left' is shorter than anyone expects." Item 1. A written emergency plan. The thing no one prepares, but everyone needs. Every item on this list is physical. Batteries, food, water, cash. Things you can buy, store, and check off a list. Item 1 is none of those things. and it's the most important item of all, which is why it's here at number 1. An emergency plan is a written document, or at minimum, a shared understanding within your household that covers what to do when things go wrong. It's the item that every major emergency preparedness organization recommends as the foundation of household readiness, and it's the item that the overwhelming majority of households don't have. Here's what an emergency plan covers, according to FEMA and Red Cross guidance. First, communication. How will your household members contact each other if you're separated during an emergency? This requires an out-of-state contact person, someone in a region unlikely to be affected by the same event, who all family members know to call. Local calls often fail to connect during major emergencies due to network congestion. Calls to distant area codes frequently go through. Write down this person's phone number on paper. Phone numbers stored only in a smartphone are inaccessible if the phone dies. Second, meeting locations. Identify 2 meeting locations, one near your home, the end of the driveway, a neighbor's house, the corner, for scenarios where you can't get back inside, and one further away, a specific relative's address, a community center, for scenarios where the neighborhood needs to be evacuated. Every household member needs to know both locations without looking them up. Third, evacuation routes. Know at least 2 routes out of your neighborhood, because one may be blocked by flooding, debris, or traffic. Know where your nearest emergency shelter is. Know how to turn off the gas, water, and electricity to your home. Know where these shutoffs are before you need them. Fourth, medical information. A written list of every household member's medications, dosages, physicians, allergies, and medical conditions, kept with your emergency documents, is critical information in any scenario where someone needs medical assistance from people who don't know them. First responders and emergency room physicians both rely on this kind of documentation when a patient cannot provide it themselves. Finally, practice. A written plan that no one has read is marginally better than no plan. A plan that the household has discussed, rehearsed in basic terms, and updated annually, that's what actually functions under stress. The preparedness community has a phrase that captures this fairly bluntly: don't plan to improvise. The moment a serious emergency is underway is precisely the wrong time to figure out what you should have figured out beforehand. The plan doesn't have to be elaborate, it has to exist, be written down, and be known by the people it covers. And those are the 12 items in the ultimate blackout kit. 12 items every home must have before it's too late. Water you can actually drink. Light that works. A radio that doesn't need a Wi-Fi signal. The ability to charge a phone when the grid is down. A first aid kit that wasn't assembled in a different decade. Food for 3 days that doesn't require electricity to prepare. Cash, because ATMs run on power too. Carbon monoxide protection, because generator misuse kills people every year. Temperature management for both ends of the thermometer. Sanitation supplies, because that conversation is necessary whether it's comfortable or not. A go bag that leaves with you in 2 minutes if you need to. And a written plan for everyone in the house that tells each person what to do before someone panics and starts improvising. None of this is complicated. None of it is particularly expensive. All of it takes a weekend afternoon to put together. The gap between households that manage emergencies and households that don't usually isn't equipment. It's whether anyone did the planning before it became urgent. If this was useful, hit that like button and subscribe. It keeps the channel going, and there's more content exactly like this coming regularly. Drop a comment below with which item you already have and which one you've been putting off. We're curious where most people are starting from. We'll see you in the next one.